The last time I saw them together, they were packing boxes from an apartment he could no longer afford. Paid for with money I froze. The moment I landed back home, I felt lighter. It wasn't just about being out of Napa. It was being out of his life, his lies, his manipulation, his fake anniversaries. The divorce lawyer, Ms. Brennan, was already in motion. She'd received all the files I'd sent, and by Monday afternoon she'd initiated the formal process. Everything I once feared losing, I now saw as freedom. The house, mine, inherited, paid off years ago by my father. Darren had no legal claim. The accounts, separated. I froze the joint assets until court review. The car, in my name, the business Darren tried to funnel money into. Turned out he didn't even legally register it. I shut it down with a single email. And Lila? She quit the firm 2 days after the Napa trip. Rumor was she didn't like being labeled the home wrecker with a matching necklace. A week later, I got an anonymous tip from one of Darren's old co-workers. Apparently, Lila had been engaged before Darren to a man she left for him. The man filed a harassment report after she tried to reach out again, claiming she made a mistake. Lila, it seemed, had a history, and Darren, he was just the next disaster on her list. Word spread fast. Our mutual friends and the ones who'd always posted power couple hashtags on our anniversary stopped tagging him. A few even reached out to me privately. "We're so sorry, Claire. We had no idea." I always thought something was off between him and his assistant. I didn't reply to most of them because it didn't matter anymore. This wasn't about proving something to the world. It was about reclaiming my name. I sold Darren's old suits, donated the wine glasses he loved, painted over the wall where our anniversary photos used to hang. And I started something new. A blog, anonymous at first, not about quiet betrayal. Not the kind that explodes in a scandal, but the kind that erodes women in silence, the kind where perfect becomes poisonous. The blog went viral. Within a month, I had sponsors reaching out, TV producers requesting interviews, other women sharing stories in the comments. He let her pick my wedding anniversary gift too. He bought her the same shoes he bought me. She planned our vacation. I just showed up. I wasn't alone. 3 months later, Darren asked to meet. He was staying in a short-term rental. His accounts were still tied up in the divorce. I agreed, not to reconcile, but to close the loop. He looked thinner, unshaven, nervous. "Claire," he started, "I made a mistake. I should have been honest." I tilted my head. "You had 10 years to be honest. You used all of them lying." He tried again. "I just wanted something exciting, something new." I stood. "Then start over, but not with me." I pulled a small black box from my purse on the necklace. I placed it on the table. "Give this to her, or your next one. I don't care. I'm done carrying other women's choices." And I walked away. A year passed. The divorce was finalized. I kept everything, not out of greed, but because I built the life he tried to borrow. The blog became a full site, the second chapter. Women shared stories, shared tools, shared warnings, and I hosted monthly retreats, real ones, not fake Napa getaways. One evening, as I stood before a room full of women like me, I took a breath. This time last year, I was toasting to 10 years of lies. Now I'm toasting to the first year of truth. They clapped, and I felt whole. He gave me a necklace, but what I gave myself was the chance to never wear someone else's story again. While I was selling jewelry to afford chemo, my husband was getting bonuses for sleeping with his boss. I stared at the bank statement for hours. It wasn't just the amount, it was the consistency. Every few weeks, like clockwork, another payment from Monroe Logistics listed as consulting, project bonus, executive allowance. But Martin wasn't in a senior position, and the projects he told me about, none of them ever made it into a real paycheck. So I started digging. I called the HR department of his company, pretending to be a loan officer verifying income. "We just need to confirm Mr. Clark's monthly salary." The woman hesitated, then said, "Martin Clark earns $4,200 monthly. No performance bonuses listed on file." But our bank account had deposits totaling twice that. So where was the extra money coming from? I kept going. I found an email trail in his computer. The one he forgot to log out of one night when he went to bed drunk. Search term, Amanda Monroe. Over 40 emails, some professional, some very personal. I can't stop thinking about last Thursday. Dinner next week. Same hotel? She has no idea. You're the only one I want. I couldn't breathe. Literally, I felt my lungs tighten. The kind of pain that no chemo had ever given me. This wasn't just betrayal, it was theft. Martin had watched me work 2 jobs. Watched me fall asleep in the bathtub from exhaustion. Watched me hold our son's hand during nightmares. While he was playing house with another woman in secret hotel rooms. I thought about all the corners I'd cut, skipping treatment because the copay was too high. Wearing thrift store sweaters while he bought designer shirts, pretending to be grateful for the single rose he brought home once a month while he was gifting perfume and jewelry to someone else. And now, I wasn't just sick, I was done. I called Lena, my nurse friend, told her everything. She cried harder than I did. "You need to confront him, Hannah." "Not yet," I said. "I want proof. I want everything." So we got strategic. Lena helped me install a hidden voice recorder in our living room lamp. I added a location tracker to Martin's car key. And I told the kids Mommy was working on a surprise for Daddy's birthday. In reality, I was planning to end the illusion. 3 days later, the recorder caught everything. Martin on the phone, pacing after dinner. "She's still clueless. I swear, Amanda, she doesn't suspect a thing. The bonus hit today. I'll wire half to Mom's account. She's always tired anyway. She won't notice." I clenched my jaw so tight I thought my molars might crack. Tired? He thought I was tired? Try radiation fatigue. Try stage 3 chemo nausea. Try waking up wondering if your kids will remember your face in 10 years. The next morning, I packed the kids' lunch, kissed them goodbye, and told Martin I was taking the car for groceries. Instead, I drove to Amanda Monroe's corporate office. I didn't walk in as Hannah the housewife. I walked in as Mrs. Martin Clark, armed with a folder of printouts, bank transfers, email screenshots, voice transcriptions. Her receptionist asked if I had an appointment. "No," I said, "but trust me, Amanda's going to want to hear this." 10 minutes later, I was in her sleek glass office, seated across from the woman who had casually ruined my marriage. Amanda smiled stiffly. "So how can I help you?" I laid the folder on the desk. "This is everything you need to know about the man you're sleeping with." She paused, then flipped through the first few pages. Her face changed, from calm to confused to horrified. "He told me you two were separated. He told me you had mental issues. I laughed, loud. No, Amanda, I have cancer and I've had it for 5 years. While your little affair was funding spa days and rooftop dinners, I was selling my wedding ring to pay for my treatment. Amanda sat back, shaken, and then, softly, He's not who I thought he was. I stood. Welcome to the club. As I turned to leave, she said one last thing. He doesn't work here anymore. He lied about that too. I froze. What do you mean? I fired him 2 weeks ago. He said he'd talk to you about it. I paid him severance out of guilt. But he didn't work a single day last month. I walked out in silence. My husband hadn't just betrayed me. He'd built his entire life out of lies. The moment I stopped hiding was the moment he started running. When I got home from Amanda's office, I sat in the driveway for nearly an hour. My hands trembled, not from chemo, not from nerves, from clarity. He didn't just betray me emotionally. He manipulated me, financially, mentally, physically, and while I was protecting our family from my truth, he was destroying us with his own. That night I cooked dinner like usual. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans. The kind of comfort meal that made it easy to pretend things were normal. Martin came home late, as always. He kissed my cheek like nothing had changed, but I didn't flinch. I watched him eat. I watched him scroll through his phone under the table, and I waited until the kids had gone to bed. Then I turned off the TV, stood in front of him, and said, I went to Amanda Monroe's office today. He paused, then forced a laugh. What? Why? I held up the folder, because I needed to confirm what I already knew. His face drained of color. The money, the affair, the severance, the lies, all of it. He stammered, tried to claim innocence, then defaulted to anger. You went through my stuff? I smiled. You went through our life. Then I told him everything. My cancer, the chemotherapy, the cleaning job, the pawn shop visits, the skipped medications. His mouth opened and closed. Nothing came out, because what could he say? There was no excuse for leaving your wife to die alone while building a second life in secret. I said one final thing before I walked away. I'll be filing for divorce by the end of the week. You will not see another dollar from me, and you will not use our children to rewrite your version of this story. Then I handed him the eviction letter. Dad left this house to me. You were never on the deed. You have 3 days. Martin tried to bluff, tried to guilt me, tried to cry. But I was done. The woman who had suffered silently for 5 years, she didn't live here anymore. Later that night, I went into the closet and pulled down a shoebox I hadn't opened in years. Inside were every receipt from my treatment, every unpaid medical bill I'd tried to forget. A photo of me holding my son's hand after one of my lowest days, and a letter I'd written to Martin, just in case I didn't survive. I tore the letter in half, and then in half again. He didn't deserve my goodbye. The next morning, I got a call from Lena. She was crying again, but this time it wasn't from grief. She'd seen Martin's GoFundMe. He had started one titled, Support My Wife's Cancer Battle. Help Us Save Hannah. Photos of me in a hospital gown. Private ones I never shared. He was using my illness to make himself the hero. Donations had already reached $12,000. I drove straight to the police station, then to a lawyer, then to GoFundMe's fraud department with screenshots. He didn't know yet, but he was about to. Because the woman he thought he could lie about, exploit, erase, She was done playing sick. She was fighting back. The world finally knew what I had always feared. Not that I had cancer, but that the man I married never really saw me. The GoFundMe campaign was suspended within 48 hours. Every cent frozen. Every donor refunded. But I didn't stop there. With my lawyer's help, I submitted a formal fraud complaint. Martin was subpoenaed for financial misrepresentation. He'd not only collected money using my medical records without consent, but he had lied in doing so. Even Amanda Monroe submitted a written statement. She said Martin had misrepresented his marital status and that she regretted everything. It was almost too easy to dismantle him. When the story went public and yes, it did, it was picked up by a local news site as husband caught profiting off wife's cancer while having affair with boss. My inbox flooded with messages, some from old friends, some from strangers, all of them outraged. I donated to that page. I'm so sorry. You're a warrior. You deserved better. Thank you for speaking up. I went through something similar. I wasn't alone, and neither were the women who had suffered in silence like I had. The divorce went through clean, full custody awarded to me. Supervised visitation for Martin, who now had a fraud investigation pending and couldn't hold a steady job. He tried to fight it, said I was vindictive, said I was trying to ruin his life. The judge's reply, "You did that yourself, Mr. Clark." My treatment ended 3 months later. I walked out of the hospital for the final time wearing a scarf, no wig, and no fear. I had survived both cancer and betrayal. Lena was there holding a bouquet. My kids were there holding signs that said, "Our mom is a fighter. We love you forever." For the first time in years, I cried freely, not from pain, but from peace. I took a job working with a cancer nonprofit, started a blog about invisible strength, launched a series of talks called The Ones Who Kept Going. The first one sold out in 2 days. I told my story, the whole story, about chemo and shame, about lying to protect people who never deserved it, about discovering that self-worth isn't built in hospitals or marriages. It's built in the moments you decide you are enough. To the woman who's holding her pain in silence, tell your truth. To the partner who thinks betrayal is invisible, it's not. To the version of me who started this journey scared and alone, you made it. You made it out. Martin lost the house, the job, the illusion. I lost my fear. He stole my peace for years, but I took back my power. And this time he had no idea who he was dealing with.